There's an emergency taking place right now today, and yet people are unprepared. That's the topic here. The very first thing is a once-in-a-generation event, like I said, that people do not have the preparations for. The second thing I need to discuss is what we must know. I'll break that down for you. The third is the change that's needed now. If we take all this information in, we are going to make sense of it and we're going to be much better off. So you got to stick with me here. Let's begin. Now I'm going to show you a bunch of information, and please understand, I'm not giving you the weather report. This isn't the weather GPS, but I need to show you what's happening today to explain why this is relevant ongoing. National Weather Service says once in a generation storm is coming. Here's what's expected. They break it down, how much snowfall here, how much snowfall there, the times, all that. What's important here for this video is that depending on where you are, you're going to be affected differently by this. Maybe some areas, nothing at all. Other areas might be heavily impacted. So the point is, depending on where you are, you might be hit hard. The question is, where exactly will that be? Do you know in advance? Of course not. We don't know. And that's why we must be prepared for all situations. We need to have our portfolio prepared. We need to have our own house in order. Our security, everything needs to be ready for that rainy day, or in this case, snowy day. Let's look further. Here it is. Arctic blast leave thousands without power across Texas. Initially, they were saying, no, Texas is fine, the grid is up and running. And now we have reports of thousands without power. Power outages affecting homes, businesses in downtown Canyon amid the bitter cold. Here come the snowpocalypse. U.S. braces for a once-in-a-generation weather front, with the worst crippling storms hitting today, battering nearly every state as snow bomb cyclone shuts down travel. That is a mouthful, let me tell you, but essentially saying that you've got 90 million people under winter weather alerts across the country. So we don't know which parts are getting hit the hardest. Maybe by the time you watch this video, it's all complete and everything is already said and done. But it's important to know that we don't have this crystal ball to be able to determine that. Yeah, we kind of know, okay, there's a storm coming, and it could be a different type of storm. It could be a hurricane. It could be some other natural disaster. It could be a man-made event. The point is, we must be prepared. Here you can see the winter storm warning. Denver endures a record-breaking temperature drop. This can impact a lot of things. It could impact the electrical grid. It could impact all types of even trains moving. Different things could occur. Sudden temperature drops. A winter storm sparks flight cancellations, strands thousands in airports. You could see these people here. They're going to be in for one heck of a time, I'll tell you that. And this is the cold map, just showing you which areas will be hit the hardest by this. Power outages increasing across the country amid winter storm. Like I said, this is the deal. There's power outages. For most people, they have no way possible to deal with it. They just say, okay, I'm just going to stand right here and wait till it's all fixed. They talk about the fact that people have perished. 9,000 flights have been canceled, and just go on and on. Okay. Now we need to explain what's really happening here and why most people are simply unprepared for this crisis. These things happen all the time. Okay. How many hurricanes hit Florida every year? How many times do we see these major hurricanes or snowfalls that occur that could be potentially not this one-in-a-generation type event, but a big one? What about any of these other events that do take place in these areas year after year after year after year, and yet people are not prepared for it? At the last minute, they go rushing to the store. Oh, I need to get canned food. I need to get some water. I need batteries, all these different things. Where were you 3 months ago? Where were you last year? Why weren't you prepared today? And why should we be prepared? Are there concerns? In this video, I'm going to show you why there, in fact, are big concerns, and that as we move forward, it's actually going to get worse. You want to see that? Let's go. Come with me. A crisis is looming for the US energy grid. The US's aging energy infrastructure is already under strain, but the combination of more renewable power sources and higher demand could cause shortages for years to come. That doesn't bode well for people today. As we become more complacent and of course more reliant on the different systems that have been set up, I mean, just ask yourself, your family, what have you, how many people are actually growing their own food? We moved down from a vast majority of people doing so, and as these agribusinesses have grown and grown, that number, I believe in the United States, was something like 2%. 2% of people are actually involved in growing food. I'm talking about as a profession. So this is something that it is a big risk. It is a major risk. And we saw that in 2020. We saw what happened with the food supply and the supply chain. Different things are going on today. But of course, with that power, what's happening with the power, I mean, this is very, very dangerous because after a few days, you have chaos. And we'll talk more about that in the breakdown. The major concern for the energy grid is severe weather events, such as the Texas freeze in February 2021, where the state had to carry out rotating power outages. The Midwest and South Central US are at the highest risk of electricity shortages, but the entire country needs to modernize its electricity grid to avoid shortages in the future. The things that I would say is that you need to prepare for yourself. The government is not going to do it. They're going to invest probably trillions of dollars in the near future into energy, and they will not resolve the problem. It's not going to happen. So what do you have to do? Well, what are the things that you can do as an individual in your circumstances, depending on how much money you have, depending on your living conditions? Do you live in a house? Do you live in a rural area? Or maybe you live in a condo? All of these factors are going to determine what you're able to do. But if you live in a sunny, very sunny climate, all the sun is always out, maybe solar panels are great for you. I've seen people in the comments, and please let me know if I've seen many times, in fact, where people have said, I have solar panels on my roof and I do not pay electricity. Maybe you pay just the one fee and that's it. Okay. In fact, some people sell back to the grid and are producing money from solar panels on their roof. It's not for everybody. Then we have geothermal. Maybe that works where you are. There are different methods. There are different things. But if you are not prepared for this, you're going to be smashed. You're going to be really at the, receiving the short end of the stick in this case here, because you're just thinking and waiting for the government to come around and help you. And it doesn't matter if you're in the US or Canada, or in this case here, Europe, we are all feeling it. Grid bottlenecks could derail Europe's renewable energy boom. We've been hearing a lot about this. We want to have this renewable energy because it's clean energy, as they tell us, and yet this could create a problem. Europe's renewable energy industry is booming. Yes, there's trillions of dollars going in. If Europe is to remain a leader in renewable energy, the region will have to invest more into its grid. Grid bottlenecks could derail Europe's green energy boom. I'm willing to see what happens here. I've, traveled through Europe and seen a lot of houses, tons of houses. You would think this is a house in the middle of a village, and they have solar panels on their roof. And you see that because they have the sun, they don't have a grid where they are, and they want electricity. So you can do this. You can make this happen if it happens to be in a place where it makes sense. Some places just doesn't make sense to have that. But there's always something that we could be doing, but generally we don't. And we take that big, big risk when the time comes. This happens to be about Billy G. Well, he's backing a venture, plans to build $760 million battery plant. This would be good if they can set this up and there aren't any problems. I'm not sure yet. I think it's way too early, but they could stabilize the energy grid by having it flow into the batteries, and then from there it would go on out. They have this with Tesla. Tesla has their own power wall, where it's basically a battery that they put in your house. They could put that on the wall that would give you that battery backup. It could also store it from the solar panels if you wanted. That's not even necessary. But during peak load times, you could be using the battery's energy, and then in the cheaper times, you could be filling the energy into that, so it could actually pay for itself over its 10-year warranty. I thought it was interesting. Wanted to mention that. Now let's look here at the breakdown. If the energy grid goes down for an extended period of time, it can have severe consequences for society and the economy. One immediate impact is that many essential services that rely on electricity, such as hospitals and water treatment plants, will be disrupted. This can lead to shortages of vital services and potentially even loss of life. The economy will also be severely affected by a prolonged power outage. Businesses that rely on electricity to operate will be unable to function, leading to lost productivity and income. This could result in widespread job losses in a downturn in the economy. The food supply can also be impacted by a prolonged power outage. Many food items, such as perishable goods and frozen products, require electricity to keep them fresh. If the power is out for an extended period of time, these goods may spoil, leading to shortages and potentially even food insecurity. There's the risk of civil unrest during a prolonged power outage when essential services are disrupted and people are unable to go about their daily lives. Frustration and anger can build, potentially leading again to unrest and violence. One example of a significant power outage in the United States occurred in 2003 when a blackout affected the Northeast and parts of Canada. This outage, which lasted for several days, caused widespread disruption and was estimated to have cost billions of dollars in lost productivity. Of course, food was spoiled. So much changed during that one period of time. But don't worry, right? Because people figured it out and got backup power and diesel generators and natural gas generators, right? Of course not. Let's move on. Let me show you this. Americans anticipate trouble in 2023. So they know it's coming. They see the dangers. They see the writing on the wall, but they do not resolve it. This is just a CNBC guest basically saying that they want more unemployment because it's overheating, it's creating inflation. Isn't that very nice to say? Well, of course, there's a reason why that's said, and they explain it here, but I just think it's important to know that 2023 brings more chaos as inflation remains high and interest rates do as well. Egg prices surge to records as bird flu hits poultry flocks. You look at that, it's not just eggs. Look at lettuce. Look at all these different things that have really multiplied in price over the last while. Happy holidays, you're laid off. White-collar workers bear the brunt of the downturn. This is important as well, okay? And I wanted to show you this as well as this. Google tells employees more of them will be at risk for low performance ratings next year. Many of these tech companies are laying people off or at least preparing for that to occur. Now, here is a McDonald's sandwich. It looks quite disgusting, if you ask me. I don't know what that is, but I'm not sure that's... I don't really know what it is. This is a fully automated McDonald's, okay? You may have seen the video of this. Link will be in the description as always. And what is it really talking about here is that it's fully automated. Like you go in, you tap the screen, you push the buttons, and out comes, through this trolley, out comes these burgers made by these robots. You do not interact with a human along the way. You get what I'm saying here? This is happening. I've been talking about people. You know, you got to get smart with your stuff, okay? And then this is just talking about the fact that people are buying second homes in parts of Italy, but I've noticed this in different places where they're simply picking up and getting away for one reason or another. Maybe, and I've said this a million times, maybe the place that you live is not conducive to what you're trying to get at, right? Is it? Is that the place where you need to be? Maybe it isn't. This is the 4 things. You ready? We are headed towards or already in a recession, depending on where you are. Robots and automation are picking up right now. Think about as people get laid off, they then maybe potentially would get rehired back. Not necessarily the same person, but some people would be hired back into that position and the company can grow from there on in. But what if now you have a robot or some sort of AI replacing people? Well, then you have a lack of job in that area. And now there are some jobs out there, but maybe $7 an hour isn't very substantial for some people. Food supply, supply chain, and the power grid have all shown massive fragility. The future is likely filled with less consumption and yet more spending. You will pay more and get less out of it. That's just the way it goes. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. We must be prepared. I've given you some pointers in this video. There's so much more. I have a whole playlist called How To and Solutions. I wanted to ask you something. If you found this video informative, hit that subscribe button right next to the like button, because this is what you need to know every single day, bringing you the truth. And that's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.